These are their stories.
Masuk Issey Nakajima, rematakan Issey cantik. Wow! Issey Nakajima meletakkan tepat.
That's a good point, Issey. Oh my word, well, what a wonderful goal. Well, the wall didn't do its job, and Issey Nakajima-Farran.
And a control finish. There's no backlift on this strike, he just guides it and skips it. Past Bogard, that's a control finish. Nakajima-Farran. He makes it look easy, but it wasn't easy.
Rebound again. This one into the back of the net. As it's Issey Nakajima-Farran with the opening strike tonight, and it is 1-0 to Toronto FC.
See what happens.
So I got a bunch of stuff. So when I did the interview with Marcel, I was wearing a Canadian jersey, right? Because I figured why not? Why not wear it? And to be honest, if it was sponsored by Umbro, I probably wouldn't have worn it, but it was sponsored by Nike. And I was like, finally, we're sponsored by Nike. That was always my deal. So I was wearing a jersey and I was like, oh, which one should I wear for Issey? Should I just like wear normal clothes, or should I wear like this like red hoodie, or should I wear this old school throwback Canadian jersey? Like way back.
I got that too, man. I got.
Do
that
you?
Too.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. That's when Adidas was like that. That was totally random when Adidas started doing that in Canada.
Yeah.
And when I saw it in the shop, I was like, "That's gotta be
exactly
purchased."
I got that in Czech Republic. There was like this Adidas store that was like custom, like those random amazing one-off shoes type deals.
Yeah.
And I went in there and I saw that and I was like, you got to be kidding me. And I grabbed that thing so fast.
Dude, I got it downstairs. So if you want to whip that on. I never wear it. It's just always there. It's always there.
Yeah. Same thing, man. I don't wear it. And I saw, believe it or not, I saw some basketball player recently wearing it, and I was like, you got to be kidding me, man. This guy. So they're making throwbacks, I guess, and I have the original, but I mean, it will be two nerds wearing the same thing.
I know, right? Okay, yeah,
we're not gonna do that. So yeah, for those of I mean, nobody knows, so this is just our conversation. This is the first real sit down that you and I really had about our careers. I know we met through Damien Scott, I think, but well, like this formally, right? He gave me your number, but we actually met. The first time I ever met you in person was, well, first of all, the first time I ever knew about you was in PES. I don't know if you know what PES is, but PES, P-E-S, Pro Evolution Soccer was a game back in the day. It's still around. And I remember always picking Canada, right? And we were so unofficial that all the names of the players were all messed up, right? So you didn't have the original names because they didn't have the licensing, because they didn't care about Canada. So there was this guy, who was like an Asian looking guy, but not quite. And this is when the graphics weren't that great. And you had this weird, like
eyes. No. I still have weird eyes. No, really, I did. But they were very good with your habits before the game. Because I remember, like, when I was in Northland, they said to me that all the, I don't know, I guess it was PES back then, the PES scouts, to see how you celebrate, what you do just before kickoff, what you do if you run on pitch, if you came on as a sub, like whether you touch the ground and do hop twice, or before the game, I would always jump up really high as I can, with the knee to the chest.
With knees to the chest,
And and before the game, just before kickoff, you see this little guy on the right wing doing the same thing. I was like, shit, they got that, which was pretty pretty nice.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, man, that was I never got into PES. I didn't stick around on the national team long enough, but yeah, I did get into FIFA. But I remember this guy, and I was like, who is this guy? And it had some weird, messed up name. And they gave you the wrong haircut. They gave you this it was like a short haircut, like a I don't know. It was weird. But I think even in that game, you needed to edit the Canadian team too, because there's a lot of them that didn't have like the right stuff, but they had the right habits, right? And so that's how I really knew about you. And then I was like, okay, where is he? And And then we formally met on the national team. And that was the boat ride from hell trip that I don't think anybody really knows about. So hopefully we get into that. But I remember this, I did not like you. And the reason why I didn't like you wasn't because I didn't like you, but when I came in there, this was probably, I don't know, that was when the national team had like a bunch of random coaches, like Frank Yallop was in and then he was out, and then Dale, and then in and then out. And then I'd see Stephen Hart as an assistant once in a while. And just every time it was like a rotation. You weren't a part of that because you were playing consistent football. And you went for the major trips. I think you were already on the national. Yeah, you were pretty much on the national team at that point, but I was still in and out. And I remember I got my first cap, and I think your brother was there. And I was like, okay, I was going to play for Jamaica. And then I got the call up, and they, because I was frustrated, and so they brought me in, and we were supposed to play against St. Lucia, which is where my wife is from. And somehow the game got canceled, and I was like, typical. Like, how can a national team game get canceled? And then we picked up a game against Martinique, and so we went over there in the boat ride from hell. And I was there, and I trained well in Florida and Fort Lauderdale, and I was on the starting lineup. You had no idea, but I was on the starting lineup. They actually made the starting lineup before you even got there. You flew in a little bit late. I think you came a day before or something like that. I can't remember how it worked out, but you came.
Yeah, it was tight.
It was tight. And I just remember, I remember you came into the training session, and I think people knew you quite well, and you were just happy, kind of, just whatever kind of guy, very casual, just not cocky or anything, but just confident and just very at ease. And I was very tense because I was like, man, there's certain things I do well, and there's certain things that I don't do well. And one of the things that I hate is when the goal is not part of training, the concept of it, sometimes I got bored. And so, the random possession games where there is no goal to get to or a side to get to, just passing the ball around. I hated that because I didn't know where my position was.
Yeah, I love that, man. I love the possession game. I
know. And that's what got
me. Going in circles, doing a little 1-2, little 1-2s.
So you came in.
The other guys. Yeah.
So you came in, right? And I did everything else well, but you came in, and the first thing we did, I remember Stephen Hart was there, was this possession game where it was basically you can go anywhere you want and just pass the ball around. And it was in a confined area, whatever. And there was no position. People were just knocking the ball around, and you just tore it up. Like, just, you were knocking the ball, bing, 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 dummy, dummy, bing, 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 dummy, dummy. And I was just thinking, I'm thinking, okay, as a striker, I'm just trying to touch the ball, spin off, move, just kind of, but you were involved in, out, just dancing around. And at the end of it, I was like, shoot, this guy's going to be playing left wing or right wing. And I just knew. And when they went back in and they put that starting lineup on, and I saw, and we're going to go with Issey for this one. And I just remember they wrote your name in. I don't even know if they scratched my name out, but they wrote your name in. Yeah. And I just got bumped by this new guy that I don't even know. And but I knew that you deserved it, but I wasn't happy because this guy already has starts.
No,
like, he has caps.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but you did well that training session, and you deserved it, and you went in and you started, and then I think they put me in, and I did my thing, because in the games I feel at home, right? So I did my thing, and I did well in the game, and I just remembered you from then. And then we didn't have much contact after that. But so that's the first time that we ever really met. I don't know if you even remember me from that time, but
no, I remember when you start striding. You had the speed. I was like, damn, that guy's got long legs / speed. So I remember that.
That's cool. And me and your brother became pretty good friends on that trip as well.
Yeah.
I remember me and him hanging out because we were the only guys, and another one that got our first cap, right?
Ciao, this is me in Martinique with the national team. And my normal video camera isn't working properly. So
that day. So I remember that. And he was telling me where he was playing. He was playing in Denmark as well. So all right. So that's that's the backstory between me and you. And we came for a full circle now, which is cool. So now it's time for you to start talking. I've always wanted to talk to you. You're just one of those people that are very interesting. Your lifestyle, the way how you think, your whole approach, even the way that you talk, it just seems so contrarian to what somebody might think of you when they see you. Your life story and everything else, I read up a little bit. I got no script in front of me whatsoever. Hopefully your memory is as good as mine. But I guess the first thing I want to know, how did you begin playing football? And do you call it soccer or football? And what's the difference to you?
Well, actually, I started playing in Japan, and we call it saka, which is soccer. So that's where I started. So I should be calling it that. But I moved. So I started in Japan. I still remember going to a trial, and this is just when I was getting into it. I started off with baseball, and I thought it was really boring how we were just running in circles. And then my mom got this, I don't know, some corporate tickets to Japan versus, I can't remember who, but I remember that was the first game I saw. And King Kazu, I don't know if you know about this guy, Kazu in Japan, the striker, age 54 now. I think he's still playing for Yokohama FC. Anyway, I saw this guy score 2 goals. And I think just like the majority of the Japanese people who grew up watching him play wanted to be a footballer or just wanted to be a striker like him. So I saw him score 2 goals. I saw the crowd reacted. And I thought, this is exactly, I remember turning to my dad at the age 7 or 8 saying, this is what I want to do. I want to be that guy. And then, and he was also playing for a team called Tokyo Verdy at the time. So, and they had tryouts like every 6 months with like 800 kids. So I went to try out. I played maybe a few months before that. So I was still pretty rusty as an 8, 9-year-old. But somehow I got the last 3 players. No, sorry, I was playing about a year before I got that trial. Sorry. No, so I was getting the hang of it. I was in love with the game already, and made it to the last 3. And I didn't get in. All I got was a letter saying good luck, but we're taking this other guy. I ended up being friends with him afterwards as well because he went to Atletico Madrid after. He's one of the first Japanese players to go there. And anyway, so when I got that letter, I thought, okay, I'm never going to play this sport again. I cried for like a week, and I thought, I just never felt, it's like the end of the world at the age of 10.
Yeah.
So, and I remember my dad saying, if you want to, there's another trial in 6, 8 months time. So if you want to get into that team, we'll train before school every single day and go again. So the coaches were pretty happy when they saw me come again. They remembered me. So, and that following trial, I did make it through again with the 800 kids, and I made it in. Felt like it was the best team in Japan at the time too. So, and they were known for a tiki-taka team. It was the best players. The majority of the national team was playing at that club too. So, and it's the Tokyo club, so it's like the biggest thing. And yeah, and then at that moment, my parents decided to move to England for me to pick up English mainly. So they sold and quit everything. We had a good life in Japan. They were making some good money apparently, and we had a comfortable life. I was playing for the best club, my dream club, and we decided to move to England just for my English sake.
Wow!
I didn't know this so much later, but they were saying, this is where football's from. This is where you want to be. So that's what they told me back then. And then I went to Crystal Palace as a youth player, and then came back to Tokyo Verdy because at the time they do full education and full professional junior football. So, and in England, you go through the youth team getting, a few hundred pounds a week, cleaning the professionals' boots, doing full training, but no education. And I remember 2002 World Cup, I was in Japan, and the English radio set up their studio at our school. And they found out that I was a player that played the schools of excellence in England and in Japan. So they wanted to know my take on which I thought was better. And I was still like 17 or something at the time. So, and I said, there was no education. So I don't want to, my parents thought it was better for me to go through this system rather than that system. Right. Because, 1 out of 10 guys only get to the top team. The other 9 become bricklayers pretty much. And my mates all became bricklayers or father's business. So, and I said all that, not knowing.
And how long were you in England? Like, how long were you there? Because you said you were about 9 or 16. Something like that.
No, sorry. So, from 11 till 16, I was in England.
Oh, okay.
So that's when I started playing for Palace. And then again, in this radio, because I was kind of throwing the English system under the bus / Crystal Palace, I had guys calling in from England saying, "This is not true. We never had a guy called Issey." I was like, "What are you talking about?" I was at the Bracknell branch. My coach was Jeff Warner. Well, so we'll come back to me. And I was naming all these guys. My teammate, I love this guy, blah blah. And they were like, "No, we don't remember you. You're full of shit."
Oh no.
And at 17, I'm like, "What are you talking about, man? This is the truth," kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
And then there's a bit of weirdness that went on after that. But then
like weirdness like what? Weirdness like what?
Well, I think that was the first taste of like people dissing you or calling you a liar. You know, it's normal in football, and to kind of taste that at 16, 17 was pretty weird, because I'm like, it became kind of an argument, and I kind of got a little bit emotional. I was like, "No, this is the truth. Like, you look me up, but look you up what? Wikipedia? I mean, what, Yellow Pages back in the day?"
Yeah,
we didn't have Wikipedia back then, so
no.
So nobody could really look into it. So this is 2002. So so that was that. I went through the Japanese system, 16 till 18, and I went pro 18 with a different club.
Right. Okay. What you were born when? 85?
84, Calgary, but moved to Japan when I was 3. So
really?
On my passport, it always says I'm from Calgary. I think there's only 3 guys. I think me, Nick, and Lars. I think those are just the 3 guys. So even like some before Canada games, they say, who's from where. And the Calgarians, or I know my name is there. I was literally born there, and I go back. I've only been there maybe 6 times in my life to see the grandparents.
Right. So your first professional team. So you were on the youth. I didn't even know Crystal Palace. That's amazing. So you were there. You told the truth. Well, you were being honest, right? And then they just obliterated you, because then you destroyed the English system, the reality. And
I know it all changed. Yeah, I know it all changed, because they do education. I mean, the system's still the same, but in the afternoon they do have schooling, but it's not a school. Whereas I got my full diploma, because what if you don't make it, right? So even though I didn't do any of my homework, going to international school, I had to be a dormitory at the club, because my parents lived in England. I was in Japan by myself at 16. So every international school in Japan said no to me, because I wasn't going to follow up on my studies, etc. So if you're at a dorm, I don't know, they gave me all these excuses, until one school, the headmaster was a Tottenham fan, and they've never had any footballers before. So he was, and all the teachers were football fans. Like it was a British school pretty much. So they all loved football. There was a Palace fan, one of the assistants, and so they were really supportive. You can see me doing, like, I shouldn't be saying this, but I was literally copying the person next to me's homework before they hand it in, and the teacher sees it too, and he's like, "You say, just hand that in when you're done." And I'm just like, I'm not taking the notes of what they're doing. I'm just copying my friend's homework. And my whole 2 years pretty much went like that. And I wish I paid attention, but it was hard life. It was probably the hardest 2 years of my life so far, is that youth time, when I had to leave home at 6 o'clock in the morning to get on the train and cycle uphill to this school in Yokohama, Tokyo from Yokohama. So it took me 2 hours to get to school. It finished at 3 p.m. I got to race down to catch the train back to Tokyo to make in training for 6:30. We finish at 9. We have dinner together. By the time I get to my room, it's like 10:30, 11. It was like this 6 days a week. Only Monday nights were free. So, I'm just exhausted. Like I just had no time for school. It was all just trying to make the dream, right? So but I had to have the school, because the Japanese system the youth system requires you to go to school.
Right. So, and I just find like a lot of people don't understand that, like they don't understand the struggle, because they don't have to, if you don't have to struggle, then why struggle? Right. And I find that a lot of parents today, they do everything for their kids but that sometimes actually hinders them, from, from the success that they're claiming that they want, and that's a perfect example. I used to my mom had 2 jobs, so I had to I had to cycle to training, and that took about an hour and a half, and that was all uphill from North York all the way up to Scarborough, and then after training, after we did all of our fitness and everything, I would have to cycle all the way back, all the way home.
Hour and a half, huh?
Yeah. So you're doing you do about back in those days in Canada, anyways, you would have a session for like 2 hours. Right. They weren't organized. You go on and on and on. Fitness was just running up and down hills and then in circles and then everything. So it would go on forever. And then when they all get in their car, I'm riding my bike home for the next 2 hours. So I would try to get home before the sun went down. Right. Because if it had gone down, then, cars won't see you. And people wondered like why I was fast or strong. Well, you do that for 6 years straight.
Growing up.
That's what's going to happen, So here you are, right? You did all that work, and now take me from being in that school to actually professional soccer. I know from what I read before that you did well in I think it was like a youth league in Japan, like you were like the MVP or something of that nature.
It's funny because I was always on the bench as a youth player, because you got the 16-year-olds, 17, 18s, and there's about 10 players per age group. And at the end of the day, still the best players play. But in Japan, they do kind of lean towards, because the culture is so age orientated. It's just this vicious circle of like the older guys are always. Well, it's just if somebody is 2 months older than me, they still have the right to treat me like dirt. Like I still remember this one time, we had a bit of beef in training. I'm still fresh from England with this like kind of British mentality, and this smaller guy said to me, he just threw 110 yen at me, and I got towel wrapped around, about to take a shower. And he said, "Go get me a Coke," and I was like, "You say go get me a Coke? What the hell do you mean by that? The Coke machine is like 500 meters away from the change room in the rain. Right. And you can see I'm about to go into the shower, and you're asking me for what?" So I'm just like with British attitude, I'm like trying to, because I was a little bit taller than him, so I was like kind of like, what? Who the hell do you think you are? Leave it on the pitch. Why are you still pissed? And then all the guys who are my age jumping in and say, no, he said, go get the damn Coke. I'm like, what? You guys on his side, he's a dickhead. What the hell? And then I chose to kind of, I understand the whole Japanese ways, but I get this kind of golden card of being half Japanese. So I'm seen more of a foreigner. So I understand it, but I choose not to play along with it. So then, because Japanese people, they love foreigners because they can actually talk to people like level. Like it does, for us, the Western society, of course you be polite to the elders, and of course, but it's generally, it doesn't matter if some guy's a CEO, you're still gonna say, "Yeah, how are you, man?" kind of thing,
Right.
You're not gonna like get on your knees and start bowing and kissing their rings like they do in Malaysia, and you're not gonna do all that. So they did like the fact that I was half for that matter. Sorry, what was the question? I can't remember.
Oh, we're just talking about how you got into, because you did well in the youth, and you said that you started off on the bench, and I was just gonna say, like a lot of people, no, it's all right. I do that all the time. A lot of people, they they feel as though I have this big problem, to be honest, and maybe it's an age thing. That's cool. If time has passed me by, then I guess it has, and I'll just keep out of it. But my mentality is, you had said it earlier, the pitch is a sacred place in the sense that once you're on it, you have to deliver. I don't care who you are. And unfortunately, I feel as though we've gotten into a time where if you're young and you have potential, that you're allowed to develop on the pitch. And because of business, a lot of young people are on the pitch when they don't deserve to be. And they're taking a lot of people who can produce off the pitch so that this person can learn on the pitch. And to me, the way how I grew up and my philosophy is, if you're on the pitch, that means you're there to help the team get 3 points. And if you cannot do that, you develop off the pitch until you can. That's what I think.
That's European. No, that's the European way, man. Or I wouldn't even say Asian. No, that's the European way. the Canadian way is literally just try to create more Alphonso Davies.
Yeah. And then
I experienced the CPL, man. And it's not about the age. No, it is about the age, and it's not about who's better. It's about, I mean, football is always going to have a little bit of that, right?
Yeah.
They are
you're preparing
the
for the
younger
future.
guy. If he's a little less or about the same, then they're going to choose a younger guy because, of course, investment. But if they have no experience, and you can see from games to games to games that they don't produce or they don't perform, yet they still keep playing because they're hoping that he's going to develop. And we're losing games, and losing games doesn't matter because we don't have the same pressure in the CPL as Europe. Europe is all about winning. You're gonna die in public if you're caught out having a coffee for losing, right?
Yeah.
And in CPL is nothing like, well, even MLS is nothing like that.
No. And you
can do whatever the hell you want after a loss. Yeah.
I'm going to ask you all about that because I cannot understand that, and I've never experienced that before ever. And when you we're skipping all over, that's okay. We'll get to it eventually. But when I heard that you went to the Canadian Premier League, I was like, great. Now I get a chance to sit back and watch Issey play and just demolish these guys. You know, and he's clearly the best player or one of the best players, if not for fitness, then just, you know, for, you know, his mind and being able to finish. Because I saw you playing, I think it was in Malaysia. Was it Malaysia?
Yeah, before it came back,
Yeah. And I saw all those goals, and I was like, damn, he's scoring a lot of goals right now. And they weren't like easy tap-ins. Like there were some pretty nice goals there, like very aggressive. That's the most aggressive that I've ever seen you play. You know, it felt like if you were unleashed to a degree. And I said, okay, if he's here, he's going to do some damage for the next probably 3 years. I would imagine that they would honor a former national team, still national team player, especially since it's a Canadian Premier League. I mean, who's going to be higher than him, you know? And you know, I guess when we touch base again, and, you know, you had an agreement that you would be there to help develop the talent. Like, you're not a coach. Like, I could not believe that you and I literally watched the highlights on YouTube, and like when I noticed that you weren't playing, I just stopped watching them. Because I was like, okay, now I know what this is. You know, it's just becoming a developmental league, kind of like a college league, like how the MLS first started out, you know, and they bring in a couple of talented guys that can, you know, so-called raise the stakes a little bit. But generally it's just like because that's the indication that I got, you know what I mean? Like, you should have been team captain, you should be starting, they should be learning off of you by you being on the pitch, not in training and all that. You scored a ridiculous free kick. Like, I never got it. And I think that's what real football fans observe. And, when a guy like you comes
it's a shame,
back,
man. It's a shame because I really did. I gave out, you know, 120% every single training.
We play the same position. He's a great guy. He's a great person. And he's interesting, you know, he's an artist. He's played at the highest level. No. And no, honestly, and he's humble. He's a huge role, you know, and yeah, I'm just in a learning mode, you know. He's a good person to have around us for sure.
I hate compliments, man. I don't know how to react now. You know, do I hug you? Do I just look the other way? Like.
No, yeah, it's true, man. You can say good things about someone, right? I know sometimes you are just embarrassed to say it for some reason, but no. I'm not.
This is Spanish flavor. For compliments and
yeah, man.
And they gave me 5 minutes every game. And were we doing well? No. You know, so do we stick with the same teams? Yeah. I was just doing my head in. But at that age, I was 35, 36. And when younger players do ask me for advice and I see them trying to do it, that did make me feel good. I'm like, wow, this guy's actually trying to make the diagonal run or trying to play simpler and keeping the challenges towards the last third rather than doing it in the middle of the pitch. But I mean, you know, from the conversations in the changing rooms, it's a different level, man. Because like in Europe, you're talking about also where were you before? Oh, okay, so I think there was a Canadian guy there, or maybe a Japanese guy, or I played with this guy, that guy, because you're in that top tier around Europe that are players moving around. You don't have that conversation in the CPL change rooms, man. It's like, what school, what college, what? Okay, I'm gonna go over there and just stretch. So, but it was the same with MLS. I still remember like Matteo Ferrari. It was me, him, and another guy, American guy, and Matteo Ferrari was saying, like growing up, it was literally do or die, and there was only the option of succeeding and nothing about failing, because you can look after your whole family if you succeeded. And he's a guy that represented Italy and played at Roma and all those big clubs. And the American guy was like, "Oh, this was the plan B." He's like, "What do you mean football was your plan B?" No, it was, to get my scholarship and get my education, I want to be a lawyer. It's like, right, okay. Well, anyway, we got a really important game. We really have to win this game. I know we don't get relegated, but it's an important game. And then we turned around and Matteo was like, how do we have this sort of mentality, guys, on our team? This is unheard of. And I'm still like me playing in MLS, this is my first time playing in North America. Yeah. I always thought I want to come back to Canada, and in Montreal, I was like, at the time, our team wasn't great. It was very diverse. The Canadians were here, Americans, and then the Italians and the whatever other nations. And I was kind of, I was getting on Matteo, and he was saying, like, this is just unheard of. It's, for us, it's a religion. For you, it's a college. Really? That's why you're here? And he was a good player too. But it's just different mentality. And I think remember that both of us, like,
yeah, it's embarrassing, to be honest. The culture, and when you don't travel and when you don't go experience, when I left, I was 17, and my coach, Joseph Kamladi, took me. Well, I was 15 when I went over for the first time to Europe, and just the way how they treated the grass, like the field, the pitch, even the grass next to the pitch, man. We went to Wales first. God, the first time I got there, I was never known for my touch, because in Canada, on a field, you can have a field that has like 3-inch grass for like you sometimes half the ball's covered. You can kick it as hard as you want and it would still be in front of you, because it's just tall and unkept and bumpy. You can have a drainage pipe in the middle, like just all kinds of stuff. And we went over to Wales, man, and I saw the pitch, and usually only the cricket pitches in Canada are that smooth and short. And I went over there, and I remember I knelt down and I kissed the ground. I kissed the field. Like, I've never ever seen something so soft, smooth, flat in my life. And I remember I played there, and I scored like 16 goals in like I think it's like 5 games or something like that. And I was under the record at the time was Michael Owen, who had scored more. I think he had 2 more than me.
What?
Yeah. And
wow.
But that's only because it was easy. Like, we played Austin Villa, and this is a Canadian team, just because the pitch was so nice. And and I was exposed to it. Oh, it matters so much to me, man. And I got a tryout at Southampton. I remember they made me wash. There's a guy named Letitia who was like a legend over there.
Yeah, I remember.
And okay, yeah. And he was on Southampton, right? And he could do no wrong. And we were like washing his boots and stuff like that. And the training, man, was so intense, and they cared so much, and they cared about what I'm talking about. They, meaning the younger team, cared so much about what the first team was doing. They would all go and watch the game, like they were all invested. And when they lost, they're like, okay, this could be my chance to make the first. Like, everything was just so important. And from that point on, I realized not only that I wanted to be a soccer player, professional, but that I could, and this is how. So I got a sneak peek of what it meant. So that mentality always carried with me from that point on. But I think the talent here that stay here for like their whole life until the MLS, they have no idea. Like, there's a certain individual, I won't even name his name, that ended up getting transferred to a certain club in the championship this year, who wants to come back home from a certain team called TFC, who wants to come back home after being there for like 3 months, because he's riding the bench and the train. I don't know what his experience is, but it just shows that like a lot of them don't know what this thing's about. They have no idea.
Football's from Europe, man. Football's from Europe, right? You have to go experience where the culture revolves around this game.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're at the gas station or the cafe. If you're playing for that town, everybody knows you and everybody supports you or hates you, right? And you need to feel that pressure in order to, I don't want to say level up, but like at least know how important your performance is to them. And like you said about the grass, man, like I still remember, like I think some kids are allowed, but I remember one of the girlfriends walked on, and I think the coach was like, "Hey," and it was the same in Japan. Actually, I remember my grandma came to watch my training when I was a youth player, and she decided to walk on to go sit on the bench, thinking that is a bench that you can sit on. I was like, no, even the coach said, "Yo, grandma, get the hell out of here. You're supposed to sit up there with everybody else, you know?"
Yeah.
Because you're not allowed on, you know, you have this respect for where the youth players train and the top team. If you're a youth player, you could never go stand on that pitch unless you're invited.
Yep. You couldn't even, you could even walk. You had to walk around it to get to your pitch. Like I remember walking the long way around, man.
So, don't get me started with Pacific FC.
What people first see is the grass, which is basically 100% ryegrass, and under the grass we have 300 millimeters of sand. Within the sand we have plastic fibers that are stitched in there, which are called deso. Below the deso we have the undersoil heating, which is a hot pipe system, and then the final part is the drainage, which is a FAV system, a forced air vacuum and ventilation, which enables us to blow air into the root zone and also pull excess moisture out of the root zone. It takes a lot of input. First of all, it's the correct stadium design, but also the correct pitch construction. Once you've got that in place, then it is down to the groundsman. We have 4 permanent staff here, and we are constantly working. After a game, we go on the pitch and we start to divot. This can take up to 2 days to repair the pitch. Once that's done, then we have the artificial lights that are placed on the actual grass to help the grass grow, especially in winter time. The lights come off normally a day before the game, and then we start to cut the grass.
There's like car park, then our pitch, our stadium pitch, and then a changing room. You know, I'd always walk all the way around. I see guys just walking across, and for me to say, "Yo, what are you doing? Get off the pitch!" And it's like, I didn't know you look after the pitch. You say, I'm like, right, okay, you're the 18-year-old saying that to me. What am I doing here? Because it's just, man, how am I supposed to explain that? You know, it's sacred, man. It's like, look after the pitch. But then you see all these other people, like rugby team training, kids training. So yeah, the respect isn't there for our. I mean, it's this culture that we're trying to build.
Yeah.
But if we're always going to have AstroTurf, or don't get me started with AstroTurf, because that was a big transition for me, from going from all grass to suddenly AstroTurf. It's just like everything's aching. I still remember like Stalteri wouldn't get called in, or no, like he would get called in, but then I remember the guy saying, like, I think it was Stully or maybe Atiba, but the club didn't want to let him go because the game was going to be, I think, on AstroTurf, I think in Toronto or something. Yeah, and like even though it's just 2 training sessions and a game, and we're like, no chance. You're not going. If it's Astro, we're not sending our player. So and I didn't understand that at that time.
Well, you know what? I didn't understand. I didn't understand why you came back. I was so upset. I was like, man, if I had this guy's number, let me give him the number to Thailand. He can still play another 3 years, make good money, and still be in an environment. But I think, you know, it's something about home, right? Like you wanna, you know, in Holland, everybody that makes it, you know, they get a chance to come back to their original team and have a swan song last season type deal. And you kind of want that, right? Like you think, as a Canadian, I've traveled as a foreigner. Canada's a special place, right? Canada's a special place. Canadians, I think, are very, very special and unique. And you want to, but as a footballer, you never have a home here when you're a Canadian, because there's no place for you to go. You can't come back home and make money. You can't come back home and be at ease with people who respect and love what you've done and the sacrifices that you had to go through in order to push the Canadian emblem to new heights and be respected other places, right? We come back and that's not what you get. You know what I mean? It's like you get what you got. right? You're gonna get 5 minutes. You know,
no,
it
but
should have been.
You get way more respect being outside Canada.
Yeah,
like being a national team player. You know, getting called up when I was in the Danish team. The Danish guys, I think there was another 1 or 2 guys that got called up to the Danish national team, and they would always say, "Yeah, for this international break, you know, so and so is going off for the under 23s Denmark, and this guy for the top team." And he say to Canada, but before it's like everyone's like, "Well done, man." You know, there's like, and it's like office people there as well. Everybody part of the club for that announcement, and then the people in the town, the fans know how'd it go. You know, how was it? We couldn't find the stream because nobody shows the Canadian game. Right. So yeah, and
we used to watch your games.
Canada,
we used to watch your games because they would never show the national team games when you guys played places like, you know, Iceland, right? They would never play those games on TV, and so we used to stream like some random online streaming service to find the pixelated version of Canada versus Iceland, or even watching you know, in Denmark, you know, and I had no idea that you were tearing it up over there. No idea. And no Canadian would, right? Because all we watch is the Premier League, sometimes Bundesliga, Serie A, and I don't even know if we we don't get like even Holland, like it's just top leagues. We just don't, unless you have satellite and stuff. It's just not one of those nations that
no.
You know, I mean, like the national team or the Canadian national team, there should be some kind of channel, you know, whether it be League Pass, whatever it is that we have for League One and stuff like that, that highlights like a TV show that highlights Canadian talent when they score and you know, like just all that stuff, right? We need to start advertising our talent because, you know, Atiba had an amazing career in Copenhagen. Like people know about him now because of PSV. You know, because of Besiktas, right? But he tore it up in Denmark, and so did you. Yeah, you know, and you guys.
He could always go back to Copenhagen because they love that guy there. Oh, I know. I mean, every club he's been to, he's like truly loved because he's truly gifted player, right? But yeah, I think one of the guys, because I still talk to a lot of the Danish guys, and one of them I think is a goalkeeper coach or assistant coach and he was always asking me, to tell Atiba to come back. So I was like, what about me? And now he said, you're done. Get Atiba back. I was like, this guy's older than me, and my knees are better.
You know what? With Atiba growing up, he was one of those guys that was always scary but harmless. Meaning you couldn't find him on the pitch, right? You couldn't find him to foul him, you know. But when he got that ball, it's like, oh no, he's gonna do something, stitch a pass together. He was so dangerous. It was annoying because you couldn't get to him. He was that guy. So we would used to focus on other guys that we can get to, but Atiba was just that floater. He would create tons of chances, you know, and embarrass people with the basics, you know, just little turns or, you know, just little shimmies and his shoulder fakes and stuff like that. He would never lose the ball on a pass, never lose the ball at that time. And I always looked at him and I said, you know, he's an example of mastering the basics to a point where it makes him indispensable. You know, if you look at his path, right, from Oysters into Helsingborg and then into Copenhagen, and then from Copenhagen to PSV to Besiktas, where they would never let him go. Every single time when he went to a team, it was just like he always became not the most like big name guy, but always like an essential. You know what I mean?
Super essential.
You know, when I looked at when I see you as a player, when I look at all your highlights and stuff like that, I wish that you and I played together. I know, and there's not much on me.
But you were a winger too, right? But you were striker winger like me.
It was kind of weird. Like I started out as a striker when I was scoring, and then I was I wasn't as like you were very professional in your positioning a little bit, and very I would wander on defense. I played on teams where the defense wasn't the greatest, so I would be one of the strikers that would track back like Rooney a little bit, and a lot of times I'd win the ball. I would get behind the ball and I would win the ball, and I was very, very intense. So because our teams lacked on defense, they kind of transitioned me back to be almost like a On offense, I would be a striker, but then I would drop so deep that I would be almost like a center midfielder to win the ball. I know it was very strange, but that's what it was in Czech Republic because they're a more defensive league. So I ended up on the national team being a winger because you had Ali Gerba, you had Olivier Ossian, and you had De Rosario, you had Rob Friend, right? And I was very, very fast, but I was also 6'2". So I played out of position there, played on the left, the right, and then up on the right forward position and then the right wing position. So, you know, me and you would have played the same position, but I mean, in club level, I wish that we would have been able to play, because when I watched when I watched you play, you are a different version of what I thought of the game. So you were one that would investigate what the options are on the field and play what you saw, rather than the player that would be more systematic and, okay, the ball's going to go here and then you're going to transfer it, you know, skip a man on the center back and then play it to the wing and then up down to the channel and then the channel in and then back out. You were one of those players that knew how to do that when it was on, but when the ball was at your foot, you would have your head up and you would look for the gap and the pass. And sometimes you would over dribble only to get attention and then drop it off for somebody else. Or if they let you go and then you would take it. You played what was ahead of you, especially, and I'm talking specifically when I saw you in Australia. Okay, we wandered way off. So, so this goes back to professional. So, when did you become professional? What team and what age?
So, let me go back to your first question. You said, because I started off saying I was always on the bench as a youth player, but the last 20, 25, 30 minutes that I got, I'd always score. So. The Japanese guys. So, I mean, every country has their problem. We're talking about Canadian problems. Malaysia has their problem. Denmark has their problem. And so does Australia, especially. But what am I talking Japan. So Japanese, because the culture is so, nobody likes to truly speak their mind. If you do, you're seen as it's just all the negative aspects to speaking your mind, arrogant, everything. So, if a coach says this guy is not good and he makes that statement, nobody challenges it. So you see a lot of players, not just me, a lot of players don't really go up. You don't really start from there and going up. No, a coach has put a label on this guy as this level, so he's not going to go up. Well, I can't say all of them because one did pick me up, but 90% of the coaches is like this, especially the youth coaches that I had, for example. So I get my chance because I'd score. But they always had their preference, or these other guys would start. So anyway, in the last my last youth tournament, I happened to be the top scorer by not starting, and we went all the way to, I think, I can't remember, final, semifinal, and I did really well. So, and I didn't get the chance because they were always saying, "Oh, this guy never starts. He's not in our plan A." So I never had the chance. They weren't even talking about me to go top team in Tokyo because it was one of the best teams. So I thought, okay, football's not for me. The coaches also said to me, "He say, foreigner, go home." I remember in training, I made one mistake, and it's like, "Foreigner, go home." And I was like, you know what? You're right. I think it's time for me to go home. I don't know what I'm doing here. I like football, but I guess it's not how I'm envisioning it to be. Right. So also. This is also another thing which I think is really important. Yes, you need the passion and discipline to keep fighting through, but you also need this giant rock bottom off switch that you say, F this, I don't care anymore. This is my last game, and just treat this game. So I treated a lot of my games as like, okay, this is my last game. I'm never going to play after this. This is my last game. And then it happens to be my best game up until then. Right. And then it just happens again and again. But you truly have to be, all right, screw this. So you let all that pressure off, your expectation, everybody else's expectation. You're there truly just to, for me, go tiki-taka, go enjoy my link-up plays with the teammates. And if I score, great. But then I, as a winger, I did score a lot. I think almost half of all the games I played. So that's the label that I got, that as a winger, I would score. So, so anyway, so then this other Japanese guy saw that and picked me up right away after I got released from the youth team. So I went to Albirex Niigata, who were in J2 at the time, and that year, yeah, we won J2 to go up to J1, but I never got my chance. And I almost got a chance. The coach asked me, "All right, our right back is he's very sick, but I know you're a winger, but you think you can play right back?" And I was like, "No, I don't play right back. That's a whole different ball game. I want to be." Yeah, like, you know, I like to be free in the last zone, and come in the middle, get turned, look for the 1-2s, play what you see. You know, if you're looking for a pass with the ball, it's obviously too late. Not in like the Canadian league, you know, everybody's always looking for a pass, or, you know, other, like the league I'm playing now in this 5th division Spanish league. It's the same. You know, the lower the level that you play, everybody's decision making is way slower. So it was the same thing for me. This is one of those moments. I was like, okay, so what was the actual question? No, so yeah, I went pro. Yeah, I'm there.
So you actually were signed to a J League team, but you never started. You never played.
Yeah, sorry. So I never got my chance as an 18-year-old because I refused to play right back. So I still just got to play my position in the second team, and then the reserve team. And then they sent. So at this time, Albrecht Niigata, they set up a team in Singapore because there was only 14 games, reserve games. So for young players to gain more experience, you do need more games, but not top team games. You need reserve games. So you don't think I'm in the top team, I'm all that. No, that's why our Canadian CPL still needs to have like a second team where that's where you develop. You don't bring that to the top team. But I think we're still 10 years too early to be talking about reserve leagues. So anyway, so Singapore had 33 games, and you're playing top league, but Singapore is like, you know, there's no comparison to the J League. So don't think that you've made it even if you're doing well in Singapore. I was told that like this, it's almost a given that you should be doing well. If you're not doing well, that you're definitely not coming back. So the whole point was to score, to be heard, so you can go back to Japan. Right. So I went on loan to Singapore, and I wasn't getting any sniff of the first team, and I at 18, 19. So I thought, okay, for sure, I'll go to Singapore, do my best, see what happens. But every year was like, okay, see what happens, see how it goes. And I ended up being top scorer. And they asked me to say, okay, stay one more year. We're going to take the guy that's 2 years older than you, who scored less goals than you, but in the same position. We'll take him back. You go one more year and prove yourself. So the following year, I made a young player of the year in the whole damn league. And I thought, okay, there's nothing more I can achieve. A top scorer, young player of the year. And then they said to me one more year at the age of 21, 22. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm not going back there. I've achieved what I could potentially achieve the most. At the time, one of my last games was Singapore asking me to play for Singapore against Japan, the national team game, under 23s. And
how would that work,
I thought this would be a chance. No, so it's a FIFA rule that if a certain country is a certain size, depending on the country, but if you play there 2 years, they can give you the passport. And I was like, hold on, I already got 3 passports. I don't need the 4th. So I don't want, but I didn't say that, obviously. I said, yeah, you know, it'd be an honor to play for Singapore, and I love this city. This country is amazing. But that's what I said in the media. But truly, I was like, oh, this is my chance to show Japan that, you know, I got something, and my Japanese club will take me back for me making a stamp here, because the Japanese national team guys are all playing first team in J League. So, so anyway, that game ended. We won the game in the end. I scored 2 goals. Wow. Singapore has never beaten Japan. And all spotlight was on me at the time, saying Issey is going to be the new Singaporean player. And I was just hoping Japan was going to say something. No, I mean, I wasn't expecting the national team. I was just hoping my club, you know, who was in J1 right at the time, to say, yeah, it's time for you to come back. Because if I'm thinking back, if I was a coach and this guy is proving that much, he deserves a chance. He's just been grinding away for 3 seasons. So I thought I proven myself to at least deserve a callback. But they said no. He said we want you to stay one more year, and the national team coach also said in the media, there's good Japanese players everywhere. It's good luck to Issey, because the question was like, will Japan ever take him? Because we want him
after he embarrassed them.
And I mean, man of the match, and it was just me as a Japanese playing for Singapore, and I'm kind of. Yeah, so it was a strange moment because I was more Japanese player than Singapore, obviously. So
yeah, but Issey, man, I mean, I have my excuses, but golly, man, bro, you got to have some footage of this stuff. Like, you never.
Yeah, I wish I had footage of that game. Yeah, because that was a good game for me. And to hear, I mean, the whole of Singapore, it's just very small, Singapore, but Singapore is so again, I say every country has their problems. Singapore is all about betting. It's about betting on football. So there's no such thing as home game, away game. You have your home slight fans, maybe 50, but yeah, I mean, you'll fill a 2,000, 3,000, 10,000 stadium, but all of them are betting. So I remember one goal I scored, first 15 minutes, I carry on my run. I was like, yeah, I jump in the crowd. Everyone's like just loving me. And 5 minutes later, I get the same chance. I scored the same kind of goal. So I carry on my run to the same corner. I was about to jump in, and a beer hits my face, and a pen, and a newspaper, and everybody just chucking everything at me. And no, he said, F you la, F you la. And I was like, what the hell? 5 minutes ago, you were loving me. How can this be,
Yeah.
And then taxi drivers, like every now and then, will be like, hey, you that guy, why you missed that chance? I lost $500 on you. I'm like,
oh my goodness.
Put my seatbelt on because now he's like driving really, really fast. Just I start sweating, like that panic sweat, because the guy's not looking at the road. I can see him just staring at me on the rear mirror.
Dash, yeah.
So that's the thing with Singapore is you don't have the home or away. Everything is 20 minutes away. So
yeah.
Oh
so my goodness,
Singapore.
So how
that's why I was like, there's no way.
Yeah, you could stay. That's crazy though. But you got that experience of playing in front of people. That's one of the things, one of the dreams when I was growing up too, is playing in front of people, packed stadium. You go watch these games and you go, man, I wish I could put the ball in the back of the net just once in front of those type of people, So you got that exposure. I mean, that's a lot of confidence, Issey. Maybe that's where you got it from. Like to be top goal scorer twice and to be the player of the year. I mean, that's a lot of confidence for a young guy to have. How did you end up in Denmark? That didn't make any sense to me.
So
or did you stay? Where would you go after Singapore?
Well, the Singaporean national team coach was a Danish guy. So he's the one that said, Issey, don't go back. Let me take you to Denmark. And I said, yeah, Denmark. In my mind, Denmark was Europe. So I was like, I want to play in Europe. And he said, let's go. And then I didn't hear from him for like 3 months. And I was like, you said, let's go. I've already said no to Japan. And now I'm like in this gray zone of like not knowing, you know how it is being like gray zone every single day. Yeah. It's like checking your phone, checking your email, checking, So, and at that time I went on trial at Portsmouth just before Harry Redknapp came.
How?
And how was that? No, I think it was, I don't know, somebody knew somebody, talked to this agent, this guy will hook you up. So actually I went back to Palace first. I went back to Palace and told my coaches who were in the top team, the guys that I had, Jeff Warner, all these guys. So they said, yeah, you say, come in, but we didn't know you were playing, because when you left at the age of 15, I think it was, to go to Japan, we never heard from you because I never went back to say hello. And coming back at 22, they were like, so you were playing Singapore? We didn't know Singapore had a league. Kind of, and that's the reaction I got from everybody. Pretty much saying, playing in Canada. So, oh, Canada had a league. Oh, it's called MLS, isn't it? So no, that's not it. But
it's true. That's how they literally talk.
But then, yeah, especially English coaches who Premier League's the only thing that matters. Right. So, and I think at the time it was in Championship or League One. I can't remember, but I did pretty well. I felt, I was still flying. I felt top of my game between 22, 27. I think it was like my best times. and I truly felt like I could. There's nothing stopping me. I had that.
Wait a minute. So you finished the Singapore thing. You're in the gray area before you went to Denmark. You went to Crystal Palace. They said they haven't seen you since you were 13. They made fun of where you were playing. So what happened right there? So did you stick with Crystal Palace and they loaned you out, or what?
So I left Palace at the age of, what was that? 11. 13. So
okay.
Yeah, because I went to Japan at 11. No, sorry, I went to Japan at 16. Oh, I'm getting confused. Sorry, so I left at 15, and at the time they were in Premier League at the time, but then the next 7 years they just went down, and there was a lot of pressure on the club, and they were saying, we can't say we signed a guy from Singapore, a guy that used to play here. We can't say that in the media. So no matter how good, well, I mean, that's the excuse they gave me, right? So I was like, all right, it sounds like an excuse. And then I went to Portsmouth, who were at the bottom of Premier League. And this is before, and they had, I think, Joe Jordan, the caretaker coach. So he was so I was training there for a month, or I think 2 months actually, living at the hotel, just training. Luau would pick me up and take me to training in a different car every day of the week. He had like 7 cars just coming out of a divorce. It made no sense. I'm like, dude, where do you park with? Why do you need 7 cars? No, it's 5 cars. But anyway, crazy. So
Portsmouth,
really
you were at Portsmouth. Where were they? So they were in the Premiership, but they were Premier League, but they were at the bottom of the table. Was Kanu there at the time or no?
Kanu, no. I think Kanu came after because he was doing really well at Arsenal, I think, at the time. And then Harry Redknapp came, fired everybody, pretty much everybody, and then brought in the guys they knew, because that's what he said to me too. It's like, you need to get more games done. I don't know where Singapore is. Is that in Asia, kind of thing? Player, whatever. Okay, good for you. But I'm gonna. Majority of the guys that you've seen in training here are going to be gone. We're going to get guys I know because we're under pressure.
Who said that to you?
He did really well there. Harry Redknapp.
He said that to you?
Yeah, he said, yeah.
So he liked you then?
Yeah, he said, yeah, you're doing well, son, but you're not going to walk into this first team and save Portsmouth. So I need guys I know. That's why I was like, all right, nice talking to you. Yeah.
Wow.
That was a cool guy. It was nice to be said.
That's big. You've been around a bunch of people. Yeah. That's cool.
Lua, and there was some Danish guys that I met after in the Danish leagues. There, a guy when I played in Cyprus too. There was a Cypriot guy playing there. So it was all from the time I was on trial. I did meet 3 guys from that team in different countries. So that was pretty cool.
So when did you work out with
too? I was like,
that's crazy. Yeah, isn't it weird when you meet people on different continents? Yeah. It's so sick. Yeah. So it's Portsmouth didn't work out because the coach comes in. I don't think people understand how that works, and I know what it might appear like. I've gotten the comment, you signed with this team for X amount, whether it's a transfer or a free transfer, and then you got put on loan, and then you went on loan, and then you didn't play this many games. Why? That must mean that you're a bad player. People don't understand that a coach can come and wipe out the entire team, take 7, 8 players, put them on the reserve team, loan them out, and bring in a bunch of players that he knows or he likes, or that are a part of the agency that he's a part of. A lot of them don't get that happened a lot, at least when I was around. And so I understand. So you could have been a Portsmouth player, you could have been in the Premier League if he liked you. People don't understand how that works, that you were doing well enough to be on the team. He admitted it, but yet still he didn't trust you, which is another word for saying, I'm going to bring in the guys that possibly I can make money on, right? And so you go from being a person that's worthy of the Premier League at the age of 23, 22 years old, whatever, to all of a sudden being the Danish league. And people assume that because you're in the Danish league that you're not good enough for the Premier League, but that's not necessarily true. When I made it to Sparta Prague, there were 5 games in. They lost, I think, maybe 2. In that, you need to win every game. It's kind of like being in Barcelona and losing 2 games in a row. You're fired. They lost 2 games. They tied 1. I think they won 1, and they were like mid-table, but they're supposed to be first all the time because they depend on Champions League money and UEFA Cup money, right? I think at the time it was 3 million.
And where you stand in your table too, the TV rights.
Yeah, all that. Like, people don't understand the business, man. So when I got in, I trained 2 days. I got the number. I came for like a mini type trial just to check and see it, you know, because I was coming from Hungary, so they weren't sure if I could do it in Czech Republic. So I played with Sparta Prague against some team in the summertime for preseason. Didn't hear back from them. I'm not going to get into my story, but my point is, when I got there and I trained, the coach loved me and gave me the number 12. I got my UEFA jersey and everything because they were in UEFA. So I got my suit, I got fitted and everything. I was ready to go. Boom! I get a call. Coach that liked you, that brought you in, got fired. In came a new coach. There's a guy named, my favorite player ever, really, that I knew was Jan Šimak, and he played in Bundesliga for Leverkusen. And he came back to Czech Republic because he had a gambling problem or whatever, and he was restarting his career after like 6 months. And they took that guy and put him on the reserve team with me. So me and him went on the reserve team. He went back to Germany, and I went on loan. And all because that coach, and this is the part where our conversation becomes real, that coach made something between 80, I think it was 80,000 euro per player that he brought in from his agency. And just like that, you go from being on the first team of a Champions League UEFA Cup squad. You work so hard to get to that point. I'm finally going to break out and play with players that know how to play so I can make my runs, get my through balls, you know, and have my chances. I was by far the fastest guy in the league. You know what I mean? By far the strongest guy in the league. Like, I knew what I was going to do on a good team, and I'm tired of playing on bad teams to get my foot through the door. And then boom, just like that, it gets taken away. And so that was a long-winded answer, but I understand exactly what you mean. But I want you to understand that your projection of your career could have been completely different, not based on the way that you played, but by a decision of another person.
Yeah, no, but I say to a lot of young players or young kids that ask the same questions, you need the disappointments, because like being told, I mean, Harry Redknapp, I mean, Joe Jordan kind of liked me. I can feel that he was putting me with the big boys and really testing me out. It wasn't just like, see how you're doing training in possession or whatever. No, I was like, he was putting me with the what I saw was the starting lineup and stuff. So, but he said to me, I'm not here to make I can't make any decision for you. So we'll wait and see who comes in. And then Harry Redknapp came in for 2 trainings, and that's all I saw. It was like 2 trainings. He was like, I gotta hand it to you. You're doing all right, son, but you gotta find somewhere else where you can play. And then that's when finally, so you know, of course, disappointed, you know, because now I'm like back in the gray zone. What the hell is happening? Is this it for me? Do I go back to Singapore? Because I know if I go back to Singapore, I can find something. But this is not what I want. I want to feel the whole home fans, away fans, not like just betting fans. So even though Singapore did give me a sweet offer, you know, it was a really financially a nice offer.
Do you remember what it was?
No, man. I just remember like probably like a penthouse and a car. And to have a car, don't even get me started. Having a car in Singapore, it's like having 2 Lamborghinis in Europe or Canada. Because like let me just tell you, like the taxes for having a car, you're not allowed to drive all day. You can only drive in the morning session or in the middle session or in the evening. So your taxes change for your car during the day.
Wow.
Depending on what time you use your own damn car during the day. So anyway, to have a car was like, it was something ridiculous. So as a footballer, to have a car as a young guy, you were an absolute baller. You have to be. You know, you can't, and you're making good money to even have a car. Well, you know, to have a car, because like cars in Singapore, because it's so small, you know, Singapore, like 10 times the price.
I want to talk about money for a bit. Because, you know, unless you're making like the greatest money in the world, if you're not talking millions, then unfortunately, it seems like people don't think that you're making money. What's your view on money? Like, what do you think good money is? Because to me, if a club is paying my bills, right? So they're paying for the place I'm living, they're paying for my car, they might be even paying for my phone bill, they're paying, you know, for maybe my food in sense of, you know, if I'm eating at the clubhouse or whatever. If I'm really not paying for anything, and you're making 100 grand net, that's a lot of money. Because I mean, when you take a lot of money versus what people actually make in the real world, it's a lot of money, and you're playing a sport, right? A lot of these talents today, they're trying to demand a lot of money in the Canadian Premier League, and they've never played anywhere in their life, right? They've never proven themselves, and nobody's watching them. So why should you make money? What benefit does the owner have of paying you when technically you're not drawing anything? They get all their money from the advertisers or from the commercials or from, you know, it's not the fans, right? Like nobody's selling out or anything like that. So what's your idea of good money? And it doesn't need to be a big number, like an actual number. But I remember when I made my bad mistake of coming back to Canada, and after Toronto Lynx, I had to get a real job after being in Belgium, and I didn't know what money was. When I was in Germany, when I was in Germany, I think I was making 2,500 euro back in 2000. So that's my kids. So I never had a job in my life, so I was just comparing myself to the professionals, you know, for some reason. But I was making way more than my mom, because back then 2,500 euro, well, a euro was double 0.5 what we were making in Canadian dollars. So technically I was making almost like $5,500 for a 17-year-old. To me, that's good money. When I lost everything and I had to come back, I was working in a factory making $17 an hour. So when I got the call, you're not going to China, you're going to be going to Hungary, to this last place team in the first division, and they're going to offer you 4,000, I think it was euro or dollar. I was like, what? Net? Like, that's a lot of money. So a lot of money is relative. So what do you think a lot of money is, like, for these players that are coming?
The thing is, like, okay, when I was 10-year-old, 12-year-old, I was doing a paper round, just to get a feel of what pocket money is, right? And then my dad gave me £5 every time I scored a goal when I was at Palace. And that's when I started to feel what a bonus felt like. I scored a goal, you get £5. Like £5 was like a day's job or a morning job at the paper shop. So, but after that, of course, all your friends go to university and get into real jobs. I never knew what the average salary was for that country. I was always just trying to double my salary. That's why I moved so many times, because the next club was about to double or at least 50% more. And I never really saw it, because when you're playing football, you think it's forever, So, and I never really cared about who was getting more than me. I know the other clubs were probably paying way more, but I was still always the top 5 players for whatever team I played for. As I came in, I was supposed to be their main guy on one of the wings. So I don't know. I never really thought what was big money, because it was, and when you're playing, you're constantly thinking about the next contract. You sign 2-3 years. I think the biggest one I signed was 4 years, and you're constantly thinking, okay, this season, because you're ambitious, you're thinking you want to achieve this, so you can make this next step. And of course, I think, like all players, Champions League appearance is what I truly wanted. It wasn't a World Cup, because it felt like this was closer for me. That's why I went to Denmark. It wasn't a choice to go to Denmark. It was the only thing I had, so I went to Denmark, and then to know that I stepped into UEFA Cup a few years later.
Fra Bernburg, Issey Farran forsøger direkte op på stolpen og ind, og et kanonskud fra Issey Farran. Den tager altså begge stolper, inden den går i nettet.
Ej, det så helt mærkeligt ud.
Det gør det.
Jeg tror ikke, jeg nåede at se, at det var mål før 3.
Så Issey Farran, han har vist sin skudstyrke en gang med et dommerdagsskud. Prøver igen at Møjerben, et meget godt forsøg. Og snitter den en gæstspiller på vejen. Det gør den. Johannes Park til.
Det er en rigtig god detalje faktisk. Målmanden er prisgivet, hvis det går.
2 games, but play UEFA Cup, Olympiacos and all that. So that was super nice. But the dream is to play Champions League, and hear that anthem before kickoff. That's all I could just keep thinking. I want to hear the anthem. I'll be standing on the pitch. I want the cameras to go across, and I'm just gonna be crying. Well, I won't be crying, but you know what I mean, right? Because internally you'd be crying.
It's emotional, man. Yeah, it's emotional.
Yeah. When I saw Champions League game the other day, Bayern Barca, you know, just hearing that in the stadium, it's just like, this is the dream. This is what started everything. So, I was constantly thinking about that. So yeah, like I know I was I was already like taking care of my parents here and there. I was saving, you know, you get all these people asking for investments and buying apartments for investing and stuff, which for me never really worked out. I ended up just getting my money back after 15 years, which is really pointless. Just dealing with renters, and they're calling me, and like the lights don't work. I'm like, Canada, we're about to play. I was Ukraine at the time, playing in whatever, it wasn't Kiev, it was somewhere else. It was Shevchenko, his last game.
Oh, wow.
And I'm about to go into the changing room. This guy's calling me, like busting my balls about electricity. I'm like, can I go here now? Or like,
wait till I give my money right.